Broncos country, the streak is finally over. For the first time since September 17th, 2015, my sophomore year of high school, guys, the Denver Broncos have finally beaten the Kansas City Chiefs 24-9 at home. It was a game that we really caught the Chiefs on the perfect day. Patrick Mahomes was sick. He was dealing with the flu. The Chiefs as a whole just did not play their best game. They did not play their best football. They turned the ball over 4 times. Denver able to capitalize on a couple of those turnovers in key situations, and that was ultimately the difference. Huge shout out to the Denver Broncos defense, guys. They played phenomenal. Zach Allen, Alex Singleton, Justin Simmons, Jaquan McMillan. Those are some of the guys that I can think of right off the top of my head who deserve gold stars for how well they performed on defense. Also, shout out to Vance Joseph, man. He called a whale of a game and forced Patrick Mahomes to play one of the worst games of his entire professional career. Before we jump in and break down the stats, guys, though, I just wanted to say how proud I am of this team for staying resilient, staying focused, not crumbling when the Broncos turned it over at the end of the half and they gave up a long field goal. That ended up being the last time that the Chiefs scored in the entire game. I cannot believe how well the Broncos were able to rally there in that second half. They forced a couple of key turnovers there. Obviously, the muffed punt, which was an absolutely huge play there. Mecole Hardman muffed it. It was just a big-time swing of momentum there back in the Denver Broncos' favor because the Chiefs were going to get the ball back. We were still down 14-9 at that point, and if KC had gone down and scored, they would have obviously taken the lead. So that was a massive momentum shift for us, and then when I finally was able to let out a sigh of relief at the game and say, all right, we finally got this win, was when Patrick Mahomes threw up that interception on 4th down, 4th and 22, chucked it up into double coverage, just kind of a YOLO ball. And who else but Justin Simmons, who absolutely owns Patrick Mahomes, comes out and gets it. Finally, Justin Simmons gets a victory over Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. What's crazy about this, guys, actually, is that there are only, I believe, 2 players currently on the Denver Broncos roster who have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs in their career. I believe Kareem Jackson did with the Houston Texans, and with K-Jack, I mean, he wasn't even playing today. And then, of course, Russell Wilson beat the Kansas City Chiefs when he was with Seattle. So, overall, man, this was the first time that a lot of the guys in our locker room got the experience of getting to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I can't talk. Conversely, though, there are only a couple of players in that current Chiefs locker room who had lost to the Denver Broncos. Travis Kelce, and I believe their long snapper, James Winchester. And I think Chris Jones was 2016. That was after the streak had already begun. So there were only 2 Chiefs on the roster of that team who had lost to the Denver Broncos, guys. That is just absolutely insane to think about. That's how long it's been since the Denver Broncos were able to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't care what implications this win has on our draft position or some of the other things like that. I'm going to enjoy this one, man, because this really is the best feeling I've had after a Broncos win since we won Super Bowl 50. I can say that with honest certainty, man, because it's been so long since we beat the Chiefs. I was literally in high school the last time we beat the Chiefs. It just feels so good that the media can no longer say that Patrick Mahomes is undefeated against the Denver Broncos. So if we come into the box score stats here, guys, Patrick Mahomes actually looked human out there. He really did. He was 24 for 38 passing, 241 yards, no touchdowns, and then obviously threw 2 interceptions, 1 in each half. Again, he just did not look like himself out there. He was dealing with that flu bug that I believe his kids had brought home earlier in the week. If I remember, his wife posted something about that on social media. So he had been dealing with that pretty much the whole game. Then KC didn't really commit to the ground game either, and a good chunk of that was Denver just stonewalling them for the most part. Isaiah Pacheco did have some nice runs, 8 carries for 40 yards. Patrick Mahomes, 3 carries for 20 yards on a couple of scrambles. Clyde Edwards-Helaire with a carry for 4 yards. But overall, the Chiefs, especially in these conditions and knowing Patrick Mahomes was sick, they could have leaned on the ground game a lot more than they did. And that was a big reason why Denver ended up dominating, was because the Chiefs just could not get anything sustained on offense. Huge shout out again to Vance Joseph for just how well of a game that he called. And receiving for the Chiefs, I mean, it was obviously a really rough day through the air. Their leading receiver was Travis Kelce, 6 catches, 58 yards. One of the first times, I think since 2021, one of the only times in his career that Patrick Mahomes was held without a touchdown. That's just absolutely insane to think about, guys. And then obviously Marquez Valdes-Scantling had a fumble. Patrick Mahomes had a fumble. Mecole Hardman had a fumble. Just lots and lots of key mistakes that you don't normally see the Chiefs make. But at the same time, credit goes to Denver because they were able to capitalize on those mistakes. Coming into the other side here, Russell Wilson, I will admit, it wasn't his best day out there. He did what he had to do, but he also had a couple of negative plays that kind of made me crap my pants a little bit because I was a little bit worried that Russell was going to cost us this game. But ultimately, he did what he had to do. He was 12 of 19, 114 yards, 3 touchdowns, did have that turnover before the end of the half, which definitely hurt us. But at the end of the day, we were able to overcome it. The run game for Denver, I mean, it was decent. Javonte Williams, 27 carries for 85 yards. They really leaned on him quite a bit in this game. Jaleel had 4 carries for 33 yards. Russ, 8 carries, 30 yards. Samaje Perine had a carry for 5 yards. And then through the air, again, it wasn't really the greatest day for either teams through the air. Part of that was the weather, just part of that was also the game plans from both teams. Jerry Jeudy was our leading receiver, 2 catches, 50 yards, and a tuggy. Cortland Sutton, 2 catches, 29 yards, and a tuggy. And then Javonte Williams got the first touchdown on the day. I believe it was on a screen, 3 receptions, 13 yards for him. Marvin Mims was once again fairly non-existent. He did have a couple of nice returns, but ever since that first Kansas City game, or really the Jets game, Marvin Mims has been kind of faded out of the offense a little bit. That's one thing that I'm definitely not a huge fan of. But also, I mean, Alex Singleton, Jaquan McMillan both played really phenomenal games. McMillan, of course, had one of the interceptions in that game. Alex Singleton played his ass off. Fabian Moreau looked really good. Baron Browning had a couple of key pass rushes. Zach Allen was absolutely phenomenal today. Yeah, man, just an awesome all-around performance for the Denver Broncos. And we're going to have conversations, trust me, about how this affects the Denver Broncos draft position and also if the Denver Broncos should still be sellers at the deadline. But at the end of the day, guys, the Denver Broncos finally snapped that 16-game losing streak against the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, if we had lost one more game to the Chiefs in a row, we would have lost a full season's worth of games in a row to the Chiefs. I'm just so glad that that's no longer the case. And the best part about this, in my opinion, guys, is that we don't play the Chiefs again this season unless we meet them in the playoffs. So we get to rub this one in their face for quite a while, which I'm really excited about. All right, Broncos country, I'm curious, how joyous were you when you guys finally were able to experience the Denver Broncos beating the Kansas City Chiefs for the first time since 2015? Drop those comments down below, guys. I would love to hear your thoughts, as always. Be sure to leave a like on this video, as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. I would really appreciate it, guys. Those are 2 free and easy ways to show your support. Helps tell YouTube's algorithm to push us out and helps us get seen by more and more members of Broncos country, just like you and me. And until next time, guys, I am your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.